Que trabajar en esto todos los malditos días y me gustaría hacerlo porque te quiero.
Tú no me amabas tanto como yo te amaba.
Y ahora, en MotivActiva, hablemos de relaciones y divorcio.
Un podcast de Yanira Mendoza.
El material informativo brindado en este podcast no pretende ni debe tomarse como consejería legal. Contacta a su abogado de confianza para obtener asesoramiento sobre algún problema legal específico. Good morning, everyone. This is our first edition of Hablemos de Relaciones y Divorcio, which in English means let's talk about relationship and divorce. I decided to do this program at least once a month in English so people who don't speak Spanish can understand what we're talking about and take advantage of whatever, I teach. I'm a divorce coach, but I do not train you to get your divorce. I help you when you're in that situation or try to save your marriage, or you already closed that cycle, but you're having difficulties on moving on. So today I want to tell you that I don't want to lose the opportunity, as I almost did when I first met my husband, Dave, which he's my guest today. So we're going to tell you the story, but, I just don't want to lose the opportunity for you to listen and to learn a little bit of what I do. So today is a special day because I have David Becker, my husband, with me. So this is going to be some sort of interview, but also talking about our relationship, how we met, how I almost lost him due to fears. And English is not my first language, but I'm going to try to do it because, it's time. It's just time. So what better person that my partner, my best friend, my everything, my love, to start this today. So welcome to Hablemos de Relaciones y Divorcio en Inglés. Let's talk about relationships and divorce. Dave Becker, thank you for saying yes to this crazy idea.
Gracias, Yanira.
I love that. So today we're going to talk about healthy relationships and how we cannot believe that it's been almost 14 years since we met. And then, all that happened, the dating, the engagement, the marriage. And it feels like yesterday. Mm-hmm. We don't really feel the times. But I want you to tell everyone how we met.
Well, I was traveling to Houston from Seattle every 6 weeks or so. So I was looking for something to do. And I looked online. I found a karaoke bar, and I had been going there for 3 or 4 years. I started traveling in 2006. And one night I saw a young lady on stage, and she sang "Where the Boys Are." And "Where the Boys Are" is an old song, number one. And number two, it requires the correct amount of emotion, the correct amount of longing, the correct amount of making that song come alive. And this lady did it so well. As she stepped off the stage, I asked her, "Where did you learn that song?" And she said, "Well, my mom used to play it on the record player," and ran away from me. And then traveling there over and over, I would see her, I would run into her, I would say hi. We sang a duet together that
it didn't go well.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you say that. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't up to Yanita's standards. And then one night, one day I emailed her. I said, "Hey, you're going to be at karaoke?" And she said yes. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see her there. So I wasn't upset. It wasn't a date or anything, but I emailed her. I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you at karaoke." She says, "Oh, well, I'll make it up to you next time. Let's go out to dinner and chat."
Yes. Yes. That's your side of the story, which is true. But let me tell you my side of the story. So back in the day, I was in my journey to heal. You know, I was coming from a divorce and then the loss of my child years prior to that. So I was in a bad place emotionally. I was not ready to meet somebody yet. I was I didn't think that I was worthy of somebody's love. So I started looking for healing ways out of feeling the way I felt. So I started experimenting all kind of holistic works. I did Reiki. I did, everything that has to do with healing yourself. So I learned from one of those teachers or coaches that I had that you're supposed to manifest the things you want by turning everything in positive, because I used to use karaoke as my outlet to let all that pain and all that frustration out with similar songs. So my coach told me, if you want to do something, attract something different to whatever you've been living your whole life, then you need to switch. You need to change the tape. You need to start singing songs that will attract the love that you're yearning. So luckily I found that song at karaoke and I started singing that song. And then now that I was older and, that I could understand what the song was saying, I just fell in love with it, because that song talks about this woman who is looking for the true love, who is looking for somebody who will cherish her and put her in the place that she deserves to be. And I'm like, okay, that's what I want in my life. And what a coincidence that's exactly the song that I was singing when I met you. Then, our path crossed. Of course, I didn't see it then, because, one of the things that I tell my clients is, do not assume that the universe is going to send you what you want, because you're supposed to manifest and say it word by word. How do you want that man? What would you like in that person? How do you like him physically? Well, I was assuming that since I was Hispanic, I was going to get a Hispanic person. So when he approached me, not in my wildest dreams, I thought that I was going to have a relationship with him first. And then now we're going to talk about the fears. The same thing is happening right now. I don't want to do this show in English because I'm afraid of the criticism, or because I don't pronounce well some words. That's not my language. I try my best. But, when you think that you have to speak English 24/7 with a boyfriend or husband in the future, if things go well, you're like, oh my God, that's too much work. That's too much work, because you have to think in Spanish, translate it in your head, and make sure it comes out really, well put. So it's too much work. So I thought that our relationship wasn't gonna make it because of that. But oh boy, what I was gonna miss. So tell me, how do you feel that? How did that what's the word I'm looking for? That that everyday communication with me. Was it hard? Was it hard at the beginning? I know I learned a lot after so many years being with him, but at the beginning I wasn't that fluid. So how did you manage that?
You think much less of your English than your English is, if that's the way to say it.
I get it.
Your English is exquisite. It's very good. And there might be 2 or 3 times when I have, you want to say this way. So maybe the form of the word or the case of the word, might be better this way or another way, but I've never had a problem understanding you. Yeah. And, on the other side, it's been so much fun to learn the limited Spanish that I know. But more than that, giving you the freedom to have your friends over and have Spanish conversations. Yes. I always like to listen. I always like to pick up what I can when I can. Yes. And I am not a good Spanish student, but I do enjoy listening.
Yeah. You might not speak it well, but you understand pretty much everything. I remember one day when my mom was still here, she was going to bring us some food. So my mom say, voy a estar allá a las 2. That means I'm going to be there at 2. He heard it and he said, no, tell her to come at 1.
Because I had to leave for the
I had to
airport.
leave. So see, and that was like the early years. So yeah, you get some Spanish. You just, like me, afraid to speak it, afraid that people is going to make fun of you. But little did you know that we just love and cherish people who try to speak English, that is not their language. It sounds so cute. So when we sometimes laugh, it's because it sounds like a little kid trying to, speak, but it's not because, it's funny or we try to make fun of the person. It's just, it's so cute and so nice to hear somebody trying that we just smile and laugh about it. So let's speak Espanol, my love. So one of the things that I loved about you is your patience and also the respect that you had for me from the beginning. So tell them about our date in New York.
Well, we can go back a few steps, because the reason I even made the offer of a trip was you had a graphic of the Eiffel Tower on your phone. And I thought, oh, do you like Paris? And that was your dream, to go to Paris. So
Yes.
I said, let's go to Paris. And you said, I've never been on a plane.
Yeah, right.
So a, 10-hour, 12-hour, whatever it was, to Paris wouldn't be a good first experience. So my thought was, let's go to New York. She likes to sing. So let's go see a Broadway show in New York. And so I did make that invitation. And I emailed the invitation. She said, no, I have tickets to the Houston Opera that night. So I was a little surprised that she would choose the Houston Opera over a trip to New York and a Broadway show.
And let me make a pause there. And that's what happens when you don't know, and you don't know what you're going to miss. Because since I never been to New York, or anywhere for that matter, I never been on a plane before, I didn't care, because you don't know what you miss when you haven't experienced that. So he invited me to a Broadway show, and I say, no, I got tickets for the opera here in Houston, thinking that this was better, which, it's okay. But, a show in Broadway is like the best thing you can ever experience. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we talked about it. I said to myself, this is going to be the last time I'm going to offer.
Yes.
I'm going to email her one more time.
Yes.
And if she says no, I'm not going to make any more offers. So I emailed her. I said it was sometime in December, right before the holidays, like December 10th or 12th or something. And she said yes. And I was a little surprised, but okay. So we talked back and forth on email. I was still living in Seattle, and this was going to be 2 consecutive weeks in Houston. So I was going to come to Houston, be in Houston for the week, go to New York, and then come back to Houston. So I was making those arrangements on my side, and then I get an email that says,
I said, it's a room. Does her room has a view? Okay, but that was my way to see if I was going to get my own room. And then the answer that I got was exactly what I was expecting.
So I emailed her back. I said, well, you will have your own room. And yes, I try to get a room on the upper floor, so we will probably have a view, but you'll have your own room.
Yes. And it did. We had 2 separate rooms. But when you always go with the idea that somebody wants to, cheat on you, cheat you or not being honest, you always have that, what's the word? Hesitation. Yeah, don't trust the person. So we walk up to the whatever floor that was, 14 or whatever. So his key didn't work. And then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I know this game, so it's not gonna work. But it actually didn't work. So he had to go downstairs, get a new key, and then it worked. So I'm like, okay, so he wasn't lying about the key. So okay. So that was the best weekend of my life because I didn't have any pressure of anything. We talked so long that, the restaurant had to kick us out. It was the best conversation, clean, sane, beautiful conversation that I ever had with a man. So it wasn't, the pressure or the sexual attraction or that, nothing like that. So I felt like, it could be something here, there's something maybe that I'm not seeing. I have to pay attention. And that's how everything started. When we came back from that trip, I say, okay, I'm going to try and see where this goes. And that's how we started to date. But that was like 1.5 years after that song that he was telling you that he heard from me. Because when you don't think you're worth pure love, true love, then you just let things get away. So be careful. And I'm talking about these people that have been divorced. This was, when he met me, I was through my second divorce. And I felt like, okay, who's going to want me? Who's going to think that I'm special? So you get all these ideas. And that's our next set of things that I want to talk about, that, when we don't feel like we deserve things, we're in danger of letting the best things in our life pass by. So I'm so grateful that didn't happen to us or to me, for that matter, because as you heard him, he say that was the last time I was going to ask her out. So I'm glad I say yes. And 13 years later, and here we are. So I like to believe, and I know this in my heart, that I manifested you, because I had to do that letter to the universe where you ask exactly what you want from the person that you are looking for, man or woman. So the first thing I ask in that letter is that he cooks, because I hate to cook. Well, I hated to cook. Now, suddenly, I believe that whoever is with you makes you a better person when there is love, when there is understanding, good communication. Because one of the things that I hated the most was cooking. And now it's one of the ones I enjoy when I'm cooking. And I like to see his face when he's tasting that food and appreciating, what he eats and telling me, wow, this is great. So, when you're with the right person, your life changes. What do you think about that?
Well, on the cooking front, that was a little bit of a way for me to try and get closer to her, because that was also one of my suggestions. Why don't I come over to your place and I'll cook you some steaks? And she's like, yeah, you'll do that one time. And so we did finally get together, and I'm living in Houston, and I said, why don't we make steaks for your friend?
Yes.
And she felt she had to prime them and say, tell Dave that his cooking is okay. I don't know how he cooks, so make sure that you say nice things about his cooking. So I cooked some steaks and I think some broccoli and some potatoes, and we had our lunch, and her friends raved about the steaks. And what did you say to them?
I say, okay, come down. I just told you to say that it was good, but don't overdo it. And they were like, but it's really good. You don't know how good it is. I'm like, okay, that's it. That's enough. But, in fact, it was a really, really good steak. The reason why I say to my friends, especially John Carlos, who was my best friend, for years, I said, tell him that his food is good, because one of the fears that I had was the culture shock on food. I didn't know if I was going to like gringo food. So I didn't know if you knew how to cook, but my hope is that you did, because I hated cooking. So if you didn't know how to cook, I didn't want my friends to say, oh my God, that steak was terrible, or not eat it. So I say, if it's not good, you eat it and you say it's good, just so you won't feel bad. But you are the best cook that the food that I ever tried.
And my favorite story is our first Thanksgiving. Because I said, yeah, why don't we have everyone over for Thanksgiving, and I'll make a turkey. And you said,
no, my family doesn't eat that.
that was maybe the first culture shock for me. A
Yes.
family that does not have turkey on Thanksgiving. I had been cooking turkeys,
Your whole life.
since I could stand up in the kitchen, I would watch my mom cook a turkey on Thanksgiving. And when I was in high school, my mom said, okay, you're ready to do the turkey all by yourself. And I did. And that's one of my favorite things, is to cook a turkey on Thanksgiving. So to have that be a question was very strange. So turns out I made the turkey and I sliced up half of the turkey, put it on a platter, and took it out to the table. So I went back to the kitchen to slice the rest of the turkey. And by the time I could turn around, the turkey was gone.
Even my mom, who said she'll never touch a turkey, she ate it. So that comes to show that when you cook the turkey the right way, it's really good. But, our culture is different. So we do panes con pollo, we do, tamales and all other sorts of things. And we don't really pay that much attention to turkey because, to us, it has this smell, strong smell, but yours is just perfect. So even my mom loved it, the one who say that she will never touch turkey. So it was nice. It was a very nice Thanksgiving. And since he's been cooking the turkey and everybody looks forward to that. But I want to talk about, the fear and insecurities that a relationship with different culture can cause. So my advice to y'all is give the person a chance, because you never know if that will be that, the person, it sounds redundant, but it's true, that will give you the best life ever. And not only, in happiness, but spiritually, we just have the most wonderful relationship that I just, I'm in shock that, because I was a very difficult person, because I was still healing and I was still hurt from all the craziness that I lived in my past. And one of the things that I wanted to tell you is be honest with your partner. So the first thing I did when we went on our first official date is told him all the list of bad things that I thought I was. And then he say, it's okay, I'll deal with it. Let me be the judge of that. Or I can't remember what was your phrase. But then I felt so relief because, I finally had said all the bad things that I've done, that I am, that I was. And then I didn't feel judgment. I didn't feel judged. So that was another thing that just relaxed me. So what did you think? What was going through your mind when I was telling you all the bad things that I was?
Well, having been through a difficult relationship, it was not going to be anything new if it did turn out to be difficult. But my favorite story is when I first met your mom, Rosa. We went out to Rosa's favorite restaurant, which is Luby's.
Yes. He hates Luby's, but He had
Okay,
to go.
not my favorite, not my favorite restaurant. But we sat down, we had a nice dinner, and then I said to Rosa, "Your daughter is very special to me. Tu hija es muy especial para mí."
Sí.
And Rosa said, "Segura?" I said, "Sí, segura." And she looked right at Yanira and said, "Have you told him how difficult you are to live with?"
Yes.
And she said,
And I
"Yeah."
said, yes. And he doesn't want to leave because, again, because I thought I didn't deserve a better life. The first thing I did was to tell him all the ugly things or habits, that I had, which wasn't that bad, but, not everybody has the patience to work through stuff, especially when you're hurt and when you think the world is against you. So it's a hard situation to live like that. So I told my mom, yes, I told him already, but he doesn't want to leave. So let's see where this is going. So I love that. I love that I was honest, and I love that you were patient enough to say, okay, let me see that. Let me see how bad are you. And another thing is the respect, respect the time, respect how you talk to your partner. I've never called you names. I've seen couples that they start calling themselves names or calling their partners names, but at the end of the day, when it gets old, it becomes an insult, and that brings problems to the marriage. So to avoid that, don't ever call your spouse any bad names, right?
Well, and what you focus on grows in your life. So those things that you emphasize are the things that are going to get bigger.
Right.
So if you are emphasizing and encouraging the things that you like and the things that make you happy, your partner is automatically going to say, "Oh, that's a good thing."
Yes.
I need to move in that direction. So if someone needs direction on what you need,
Right.
then you're the one who needs to say it. You're the one who needs to make sure that they have the ability to get pointed in a direction that suits you, that cares for you.
Right. So another fear that I had was the family rejection. You know how you hear so many stories that when you get into, a different culture, you might be looked at differently, but it's just a fear. You have to experiment. I remember the first time I went to visit your family, they were so welcoming and so beautiful and so loving, and they still are. So I was like, okay, it's not what I thought. So sometimes you create your own barriers. Is that a word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You create your own barriers, and you deprive yourself of good things because of your thoughts, negative thoughts, I should say.
Well, and my family saw how happy I was. They saw a change in me, and they were very welcoming to Yanira because of the love they knew that I felt and the happiness that I felt. So they have always loved you.
Yes, and I love them as well. What about my family?
Well, I guess I'm a little bit of a novelty, but I mean, everyone pretty much speaks English.
Yes.
And we've always had a good time. We've always had a laugh. We've always had something to talk about.
Yes.
And we have a little nephew and little kids that are coming into and I wish I had some grandkids. I don't.
Yes.
But so that's fun. We've always had good conversations, good meals, good fun. So I didn't know when I first met you, I didn't know where you were from. but I never thought of you as being from a different culture.
Interesting.
So that was kind of something that you thought about, but I really didn't think of you as being from a different culture. And my family, my brother traveled to Brazil, my brother traveled to Thailand, always had different cultures around.
Right.
When my stepfather was a musician in Portland, and we would have different people, different musicians come stay with us. Thad Jones, a trumpet player who's from a different race, stayed with us when I was a kid.
Yes.
So it was not a shock for me to have be around a different culture.
I see. Yeah. And now that you say that, I remember, when we used to go out to dinners, we will always go to, steakhouses and this and that and the nice, beautiful restaurants. But then one day I say, you know what? If he is going to be the one, he's going to have to get down with my Salvadorian food. So I took him to a Salvadorian restaurant on Hillcroft. It's called Mama Rosas. Saludos, Mama Rosas. And he looked at the place and he say, "You eat here?" I'm like, "Yeah." That's my Salvadorian restaurant. So that day I ordered one of each things for him to try. Oh my God, he loved everything.
It's delicious.
Yes.
Delicious food, simple, flavorful, and you could tell everything is handmade.
Of course.
Yes. Nothing out of a package.
Yes, and I remember
and that was the only culture shock we might have had at home.
Yes.
Was there was a shopping list given to me, and I went and I thought I got the right beans, but they were in a can. I have never seen that look on Yanira's face before. She looked at that and said, what is that?
Yes.
You don't get beans in a can.
No, we make them.
You get the dry beans and we cook them.
And I say, bring some pork lard. I was thinking the carne, the meat. And then he brings a bucket full of something. I'm like, oh, no.
Pork lard. It's pork lard in a bucket.
No. So I had to go and get the beans and then cook everything myself. So, but he's learning now. He knows what black beans are. And then, chicharron and all that stuff that he loves so much.
Pork candy. Yummy.
Yes. So I wanted to talk about sports.
Yeah.
So I know some ladies out there that don't enjoy that sports portion of the marriage. But, we from the beginning, from day one, I believe, when we started to live together, you set some boundaries. And then I respect them. And up till now, I still respect that. You say, what did you say about Sunday?
Well, Sundays is baseball and football. So
and basketball,
I'm gonna,
and racetrack, and everything.
Well, it's a sports day. So usually I'm watching a game or a race. Sometimes the race is early in the morning. And the first time I said, Yanira, there's a baseball game on, so I'm going to watch the game. And I was thinking I was going to have a beer and the game. She says, well, I'll make you some hot dogs. I said, well, okay. So I was expecting, a hot dog and some mustard and ketchup, but she brings me this beautiful hot dog with bacon and this cabbage slaw on top.
It's called ceviche for Salvadorians.
And I'm, German, and this reminded me of sort of a modified sauerkraut. Delicious, beautiful hot dog. So not only did I have my sports,
yes,
but I had a wonderful meal to accommodate that. And we just had hot dogs the other day,
yes,
too.
on Sunday for the Super Bowl.
For the Super Bowl, we had our hot dogs. So
yes. So where I'm going with this is that, if your man tells you that day is mine, respect it. I use that day to go out with my friends, to go do my nails, to work on my stuff, my postings on Facebook and stuff like that. So the thing is, you have to respect your man's time. And because I know a lot of people that they get bothered by seeing their husbands on the sofa watching TV or having a beer or whatever. Just remember, they work really hard. So it's their time, their special time. If they have fun doing that, let them. But there's another thing that we enjoy, and we almost do it every week. And that's a common thing, which is the karaoke. We love singing. We love our girls at Spotlight Karaoke. We've been doing that for years. I mean, way before we met. In my count, I think it's been 20 years for me. I don't know how many years for you.
It was 2006, so almost
20 years.
Yeah.
And separate ways. I mean, we were going to the same place for years, and I didn't know. See, the reason why I was going to karaoke is just to release my pain, and because it was safe for me. The owners back in the day, grandma and grandpa, they were so nice, and they will shelter me. They'll make sure that nobody was at my table, that nobody will come and, bother me. I felt safe in there. So I thought, okay, here I'm never going to meet somebody and nobody's going to bother me. Like when you go to dance clubs, they always wanted to, make contact, and I didn't have anybody to bother me. So I felt like really safe. And then I figured that I wasn't going to get into anything in there because that was my sanctuary. But years later, I met you, and then those were, have been the best years of my life.
And there's along with that boundary, there's also the things you want to do together. And I have tried on one other activity they like, which is sailing. And Yanira has drawn her boundary and said, I'm not going to sail, but I don't like she says, if you want to go sailing, go.
You can go. Yeah.
You can go. So there's two sides to that. There's the activities that we can sit down and do together, like karaoke, which we do all the time. There's, the sports where you can find something else to do.
Right.
So just having the freedom to say, hey, I want to do this. And the other person says, yes, go. And I'll go with you, or go and have a good time.
Have a good time. That's right. There's some things that you also don't really enjoy, which is gardening. But I love that you just do the heavy lifting, and then I'll take care of the rest. And then you, the best keeper, because you're the one who waters the plants all the time and then keep them pretty, take pictures of it, rave about them all the time. So it's like a great compliment. We don't do the same things, but we just complete each other with whatever we do. So I like that, and I'm very grateful. So we have a few minutes left in our show. I felt like time flew. It was fun. But before we leave, I want to tell people the steps for a healthy relationship. And the first one is honesty. We said, at first I told you everything that bothered me that I was, and then you say some things as well. So honesty it's the biggest base on a good relationship. You have to trust your partner. If you don't trust your partner, who are you going to trust? Right? So the other thing is set the boundaries. The first day might be a little rocky because you kind of getting to know the people, to know things that you like, that you might not like, but you're getting used to that person. Do you remember the first year? Was it hard?
Oh, it was. I wouldn't say it was. There was a lot of adjusting to do. I was still traveling. So that was probably the main stressor that we had, was the fact that I was gone for a week. I was home for a weekend.
Yes.
So there was some stress there. And there were other things that I had to kind of balance out in my life. But, so we really didn't have a regular routine. Right. So now having a regular routine, it makes it much easier.
Yes. I remember that a little disagreement that we had because we didn't have two wrenches. Remember that? When you took to work, I was a little crazy. I admit that. So I made a big fuss.
Two ranch dressings?
Yes. Remember I told you, we have to have two of everything in this house. I have this issue. I still have it. I got to have two of everything. The one in use and the one waiting for it too.
One backup.
One backup. Yes. Yes. So that day, and then I realized myself that I was the most stupidest thing, to fight about. And that happened because you come from a relationship that everything it's an argument. So please, for the people who's going to try a new relationship, leave that behind. This is a new relationship and you have to accommodate your feelings, your love, your life to the new person, because it's not their fault that you are so bitter and so mistreated in the previous relationship. So I had to, check myself out on that. The other thing that I recommend is respect in every way, not calling names, not yelling, not no crossing that, line that it can put your marriage in danger. And also recognize your partner facial expressions, because we have a deal. Whenever he's tired or he wants to leave from someplace, he just makes this face like, I know exactly what that means. I want to go. So I'm not going to force him to stay there. So I say, okay, let's get our check or whatever we're doing.
Or
and
sing one more song.
I'll sing one more song.
One more duet.
Yes. So it's important that you recognize, the looks, the faces, everything. So at the end of the day, the way I think is the language is important, but not really necessary when you get to know your partner at that level that you just speak with the eyes, right? So another point that I wanted to bring in this conversation, we're almost done, it's gratitude. I am grateful for everything I have, especially you, because you're my best friend. You're the love of my life. You're the person who changed me. And I don't know if I have made it this far without you. So I really thank you and appreciate everything you do.
And
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And I appreciate your courage today to speak in English.
Yes.
I think you will all agree with me that her English is exquisite and she needs to speak it more and speak it proudly.
Thank
and
you.
I enjoy so much being in a culture that tries.
Yeah.
You've made the effort to do that, and you do it so well. So I appreciate that too.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And communicate. That's another thing. Communicate with your partner. Communicate the things you like, the things you don't like. You can reject something without being mean, and that's something that you learn while you're healing. So you can say no many times without making the other person feel bad about any situation. So thank you so much for watching this show and to learn a little bit about our relationship. And thank you, David, for accept my invitation today. I know you have to go to work, but thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to let me speak in English today. And thank you, my love, for everything you do for me. I love you so much.
De nada.
We'll see you next Tuesday en Español with Hablemos de Relaciones y Divorcio. And next month, we'll have another show in English, and I will tell you who will be the guest of honor that morning. And thank you for your attention to the show. Thank you very much for everything, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Hablemos de Relaciones y Divorcio.